Welcome to the Master Interpretive Guide Certificate Program online information session. My name is Bridget Egan and I work for Oregon State University's Continuing Education Unit. And today we're going to let all of you know a little bit about our certificate program and introduce you to our instructors. So I'll introduce you to Dave Stemper and also Kristen Evans, who has joined us today, in a little bit. But first, let me just go through the agenda and what we were planning for today. We want to give you a little bit more information about Oregon State University and including continuing education here at OSU. We also will go through the certificate program itself and go through specific courses, assignments, what you can expect, as well as timeline and cost. And we would love to talk to you about professional development and how this certificate really fits the needs of a professional development plan. And finally, we definitely want to hear and answer your questions, and so I'm just going to ask that you hold your questions until the end of the presentation. Okay, so Oregon State University, for those of you not familiar with Oregon, is located about 1.5 hours south of Portland in Corvallis, Oregon. We're very lucky at Oregon State University because we are one of only 2 institutions in the United States that is a land, sun, sea, and space grant university. What that really means is that we contribute to and do cutting-edge research in all of these fields. Oregon State is known as a leader in agriculture, fisheries and wildlife, engineering, and conservation sciences. What is really exciting about my unit that I work for, the Continuing Education Unit, is that we are able to tap into these world-class researchers and resources and use them to reach out to a diverse group of people looking for continuing education. The Professional and Non-Credit Education Unit offers a variety of courses and certificates, and as you can see on your slide, we have a really extensive catalog. We have a great variety of programs designed for those who are looking to earn CEUs in professions like pharmacy or agriculture, and then we also have courses designed for hobbyists. We offer gardening courses, we offer brewing courses, and then we also offer certificates like the one you're interested in. Our continuing education format is really about interactivity and meeting the needs of people in their fields. So we greatly value professional development, and we strive to make sure that our courses, our offerings, and the platform we offer them in meet that need. So currently we have about 400 courses, so it's quite a catalog. We offer quite a few certificate programs, including this Master Interpretive Guide, and all of our programs are developed by professionals in the field. And oftentimes, as I said, that means professors here from Oregon State University, but it can also mean working with off-campus providers and partnerships as well. Most of our curriculum is delivered online, though not all of it. In this particular certificate program, it is a completely online program with 2 optional components that can be on site. And we'll talk about them more a little bit later as we get into the session information a little bit more. So one of our goals for our online environments is to make sure that we have a lot of interactivity, a lot of high quality video, and a lot of rich interaction so that you're in an online class, but you're in a dynamic environment and you're doing so on your schedule, flexibility. Those are really our keys. So, and all of those things inform this program, the Master Interpretive Guide Certificate. So I wanted to talk, before I hand it over to Dave Stemper, who is our lead instructor, I wanted to talk a little bit about the other people who have helped to inform this program. We have an amazing group of advisory board members who have worked hard on this, and they represent industries from parks, natural resources, museums, aquariums, science centers from all over the country, and actually some of them abroad. On your screen, you'll see a list of our planned instructors. We have Bonnie Lippett, who will be a guest instructor, and she works for the Forest Service in BLM. We have Beverly Sorrell, who is the noted museum writer. And then our 2 lead instructors are Kristen Evans and Dave Stemper. And as I said, we're lucky, they're both here with us today. So I want to tell you just a little bit about both of them. Kristen Evans is currently the Director of Education for Birch Aquarium at Scripps Institution of Oceanography, and that's at the University of California, San Diego. And Kristen is unique. She actually is working towards her graduate degree at Oregon State University in free choice learning, and she's been developing and coordinating STEM programs for more than 19 years. So she coordinates and instructs Scripps communicating science to an informal audience, graduate and undergraduate course, and she also coordinates the Reflecting on Practice professional development program for informal education professionals for the Southern California region. And so she also serves on the board of the National Marine Educators Association. And a little bit later in this information session, we'll let Kristen chat a little bit about some of the needs she sees for professional development and how this certificate program can help with that. Right now, actually, I want to hand it over to Dave Stemper. And Dave Stemper is our lead instructor for this course, and he is an Oregon State University faculty member. He is with our College of Forestry. He earned his graduate degree in natural resource communication and interpretation at the University of Minnesota. And he's done a lot of interpretation work, including with the International Wolf Center, Minnesota 4-H, and the Forest Service. He's also designed a lot of interpretive materials, including, again, the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum and the Minnesota Historical Society. And he's often consulting on interpretive projects for watershed districts, both here in Oregon and also in Minnesota. So he is here with me today to discuss the certificate. And so I'm going to turn it over to Dave, who will speak about the courses and details of what you as a student can expect.
All right. Thank you, Bridget, and welcome everybody. Pleasure to be with you here today. And I wanted to tell you a little bit more about the Master Interpretive Guide certificate, provide a general overview, and then I'll provide a few more details regarding the courses that will be included in the certificate. So this Master Interpretive Guide certificate program is all about exploring this concept or idea of conveying messages effectively inside leisure environments that many of you currently work within. And how do you effectively send those messages within leisure settings? So for that matter, what is a leisure setting? Well, forests, parks, nature centers, museums, aquariums, and even historic sites, they all have in common the fact that they are leisure settings. And people who visit these sites are often referred to as recreational learners. So if your position currently calls for you to engage with the recreational learner or those visitors to these leisure settings, or if you envision yourself going for a position within an agency or a forest where these settings take place or where these settings exist, and you want to convey information, then this certificate is right up your alley. It's all about designing messages and conveying those messages effectively for visitors to these recreation sites, leisure sites, sometimes what are called free choice learning environments. So if you're interested in answering the question about whether or not you can effectively design messages within these settings, then this certificate is a good choice for you. You'll discover what it means to communicate effectively within these settings, and moreover, communicate effectively with recreational learners. So the Master Interpretive Guide certificate explores interpretation as a basic communication strategy to use within these settings. There's a lot that goes into that. We introduce communication techniques and strategies that are applicable to a variety of disciplines, whether they be natural, historic, or cultural resource management, and useful in engaging visitors to forests and parks, nature centers, museums, etc. You're going to discover some basic principles underlying development of effective sound bites, presentations, displays. We'll touch on websites and development of those types of platforms, and overall publications. So as far as an audience is concerned, you folks are our audience, and chances are you are working within some of these leisure settings. Perhaps you're working currently for a natural resource agency, park, or museum, or informal science or environmental organization. So this particular course, course one, the first one we'll talk about, As far as the cost is concerned, this one is $475 for the course, which is roughly 24 hours in duration. And it's going to help you familiarize yourself with core interpretive concepts. And we're going to touch on educational and psychological theory, development of site plans, learning outcomes, and strategies. So before we can dive into these strategies and techniques to use within interpretation, it's important to lay down some foundations first. So the first course is going to touch on theory behind interpretation. It's going to answer the basic question, what is interpretation anyway? Before it can be practiced, it's important to characterize and define interpretation itself, and this initial course will do just that. The first course will briefly explore the origins of interpretation. We're going to touch on some of the underlying concepts behind interpretation itself, and you're going to discover some of the first settings where interpretation, as we now know it, was practiced. Part of course one is also going to introduce you to some key figures within the development of interpretation, namely Enos Mills and Freeman Tilden. We're going to explore some important guiding principles behind interpretation that were put down by Enos Mills and Freeman Tilden, two key figures in interpretation. And as the certificate proceeds, and you proceed from course 1 to course 2 and beyond, you're going to apply these important principles in the development of various interpretive tools. So underlying interpretation itself is this theory and these key principles. So it's important to get that foundation first before we start diving into some of these tools that we're going to develop. And some of those first tools will come in course 1 and course 2. Course 2 is going to build off of the theoretical foundation that we laid down in course 1. And it's going to explore this idea of the important message, crafting an effective theme. All of interpretive programs have themes, or what we call the central message. So effective interpretive programs contain this solid theme along with several ideas in support of that theme. So we're going to introduce a very basic model for theme and central message development, which oftentimes isn't as easy as it looks. Some of the simplest things in life are the easiest to forget. So we're going to lay down this very simple model to use in crafting themes. And the theme is going to serve as the linchpin for any interpretive program that you develop. And one of the first things that you can develop as a student is this thematic oral presentation. That's going to be your first major or key assignment that's going to become part of your student portfolio. You're going to use those guiding principles introduced in course 1, along with this process of developing an important central message and supporting points, and you're going to craft a brief thematic oral presentation. You're going to craft that. It's going to be reviewed by instructors and perhaps some of your peers as well, and you're going to fine-tune that presentation as the course proceeds and as the certificate proceeds as well. But it's an important and relatively straightforward first product that you're going to craft for this certificate program. And it's going to serve as a good foundation for moving on to other course projects and assignments. So that's going to be course 2. So you're going to develop this thematic oral presentation. And before I move on, if you have questions as I describe some of these further courses, make notes to yourself and you'll have a chance to ask those of us. And I'm happy to help you provide the answers to those questions as we move along. So as we move from course 2 to course 3 is going to be all about sharing the message, sharing your themes via displays, signage, publications, and digital media, including website and website pages. Course 3 is $630, roughly 35 hours in duration. And within course 3, we're going to be applying these guiding principles of interpretation as well. But as opposed to thematic oral presentations, which in a typical setting, of course, will place you in front of an audience, here we're going to be exploring this idea of impersonal or non-personal forms of interpretation, where you are the designer, but you're not there to see the viewer engage with the finished product. And as opposed to thematic oral presentations, publications and displays, the viewer controls the order in which they take in the information. So that's going to affect how websites, how publications, how displays should be crafted. So we're going to explore some of the concepts behind that thought. So, for instance, we're going to explore the idea of layout and color scheme selection. What are the four important levels of any display? There are four levels, as we'll find out, and you need to effectively convey the primary message or your theme within levels 1 and 2. We're going to explore concepts like that as we work on display development. Now, this display that you ultimately create, it's going to be useful for a number of reasons. You're going to learn how to fine tune and create effective displays over a relatively short time, but it's also going to underscore the importance of peer review and evaluation all along the way. We're going to stress the importance of assessment and evaluation, especially within this course, which you'll discover is one of the most enjoyable and entertaining courses within any interpretive course. So I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you. So we're going to have a bit more focus on digital media as part of this course 3 as well. And there's going to be another instructor that provides details regarding that particular aspect of course 3. So course 3 is going to be a lot of fun, and I hope you look forward to it as well. Okay, so we move from course 3 to course 4, which involves a focus on assessment, evaluation, and more focus on your student portfolio. It's going to cost $475 for that roughly 24-hour course, and completion of courses 1 and 2 are where you learn some of these fundamentals. You're going to apply that via course 4 as well, and it's going to give you a chance to assess and revise the materials that you've submitted within your final portfolio. As far as the overall time frame for beginning of that course, we're already jumping ahead to next year. So, we're jumping ahead quite a bit here, but we're providing you a very basic description of the courses. Now, what you don't see on the slide in front of you is something else that's going to be part of this certificate, and that is the National Association for Interpretation Certification, Certified Interpretive Guide Workshop, which is going to allow you to walk away with another certificate within this program as far as interpretive training is concerned. Now, the NAI, or National Association for Interpretation Certification, is an internationally recognized professional certification course, and it combines theoretical foundations of interpretation with practical skills in delivering quality interpretive programs. The particular date and time for that part of the certificate is going to be provided for you at another time as we nail down a time for that in-person training. But it gives you a chance to use this certificate to gain some really important and well-respected training from the National Association for Interpretation itself. Okay, and last but not least, we have this practicum where you're going to get a chance to take the concepts that you've learned in the courses and apply them within an interpretive setting. So you're going to be placed in a real working environment and have a chance to fine-tune some of these strategies and techniques that you've learned about via a practicum.
Okay, so thanks, Dave. And again, as Dave said, make sure that if you have questions, we'll answer them here in a minute, particularly about any of the course material or the electives that he just talked about, the NAI workshop or the internship practicum. What I'd actually like to do now is to turn it over to Kristen, who is joining us. She's down in San Diego, and she's going to speak a little bit to the need for professional development in the field, and also how this certificate can fill this need for professional development. So, Kristen, you with us?
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and we're very happy to be joining you. As you were listening to Dave and Bridget explain the certificate program, hopefully you've already kind of started to make your own checklist of the benefits that it can provide you as an individual member within this broader community of interpretation and informal education. But hopefully you're also starting to recognize the impacts and the benefits to your organization, or the the peer group that you work within. So as you can see on the slide, there's a short list of some of the professional development benefits that this type of certification program can bring to you. And some of them are quite obvious. The kind of hard, concrete aspects of building a portfolio of products and outcomes that you can use to inform your day-to-day current position that you have, or the position that you're hoping to move up into. One thing that was important for all of us as we designed this, we really wanted to make this certificate applicable for those that are in the early career stage, but also those that are in the mid and advanced career stage, because as we all know as educators, what we do in our daily role within our positions and organizations changes, and we need to build those skill sets and keep them innovative and keep them working. And as Dave said, a lot of the ways and means for which we communicate to our audiences are advancing, and we need to advance our skills and our capabilities as well. So hopefully what we want you to also take away from this are materials and products that are useful for you in your daily practice, that can be beneficial to your organization. So some of these models that you're developing, the plans, the portfolios, will be something that can actually be put into practice. We hope that you will be able to build upon your resume and your existing professional skills. So you might be able to find mastery in a particular area of interpretation that's kind of been eluding you, or you haven't been able to find the right source and outsource to be able to participate in any professional development. Again, that was one important aspect of this certification program, was the realization of us in the field kind of coming to a point of where do we go for our professional development if it's not offered in our backyards. And that's one of the huge advantages of this program, is that you can take it online. You can be anywhere and connect to a large body of professionals that are your peers, that are coming from a very diverse source of backgrounds, from parks and forests, aquariums, science museums, outdoor settings, and historical and cultural organizations as well. And that's really unique. It's very difficult to find that. And that was one of the big benefits we thought that this certification program would bring to the community, that we could bring folks from very diverse backgrounds with similar interests, passions, and capacities that they need to build in order to be really good at what they do. So again, going back to that slide, you can kind of see, as I just said, you'll be building an understanding and capacity for not only designing these types of experiences, but also implementing and evaluating them. And that's really essential. And sometimes in the professional training world, you get only one aspect of those when you've joined a workshop or another PD session. And we really wanted to make sure that all aspects of the interpretive process were covered, and in such a way that you really felt like you could walk away with a solid understanding and ability to apply it. And that's really important for us as well, because the theory and the foundational concepts that we'll build upon are essential, and those will inform your practice. But we also understand that every day we have to do this and live this, and we want to make sure that it works for you, and that you can turn around and have something to be able to implement and practice and discuss with your peers. And then finally, I think one of the things I've been alluding to quite a bit here is that it really will build a much larger, hopefully, community of practice and peers that you can learn from and grow from long after the certification program is over and you've completed it. Hopefully you will now have a stronger pool of people to build off of and help grow. So you can build the knowledge that you all share. You can utilize each other for resources in your own professional growth. But then also, I think the growth of the whole professional field is what we're hoping to strengthen as well. And each of us comes from a unique little niche within that field. But as we contribute to it, we're realizing there's so much overlap in what we do, in the theories that support what we do, to the practical application of what we do, to where we would like to take the field in the future. So those are just some of the kind of key benefits that we hope that you're starting to recognize. But I'm sure there's a very long list of ones that I'm leaving out that we'll recognize as we go through the course together.
Oh, great. Thank you, Kristen. And right now, I really would like to open it up for your questions. For those of you that have joined us today, there's a lot of information and some things that I'm sure we didn't even get to. And as you're thinking about questions to ask, and you can type them into your question box, I wanted to talk a little bit about discounts for the certificate. So, as you noticed, courses 1 and 2 can be taken individually. So, if you want to just take one course or just take 2 courses, you certainly can. Courses 3 and 4 in this certificate, though, require basically they require completion of the entire certificate because they're relying upon so much foundational knowledge that will be covered in 1 and 2. So those enrolling in the entire certificate do receive a $150 discount off the total price. But there's other discounts as well. So if you work for an agency or a park or an institution where several people would want to take these courses, you can contact us, and we do offer a 10% discount for groups and for institutions and agency affiliations. And a lot of people in our other certificate programs and other professional development programs are able to use their professional development money from their work, like I have here, in order to take the certificates. And so that's another really good thing to ask about and to find out more about. The courses for online, as you saw, the first course begins May 1 of 2013, and registration is open now, so you could register now. And the other important point is that enrollment is truly open enrollment. So once you go to our website and you click on the registration button, there's not a lengthy submission of materials. Because again, it's really designed for those who are working in the field or want to work in the field. Two more things I'll just talk about is Dave mentioned earlier, the internship and the NAI practicum. The NAI workshop can also be taken without being enrolled in the full certificate track. And so once that's scheduled, it'll probably be this fall, and we'll have that on our website, and you can go there to enroll and register in that. The practicum, the internship, is actually really exciting. We have agencies from all over the U.S. at this point who are looking for interns, everywhere from Maine to Alaska and in between. And so those positions are limited to the people who graduate from the entire certificate program, but it's a really exciting component of the program. And so if you have individual questions about, I don't know what site would be best for me or where my skills would work best, that's something you can contact me and I can help you walk through that. You can also contact me if you have any specific questions about funding or costs or anything like that. So does anyone have any questions that they'd like to ask Dave or Kristen or anything at this time? And if so, again, you can use the question and or the chat box over there to your right on your dashboard. Okay, well, if no one has any questions, then I think we'll close the webinar. And this webinar will be on our website so that you can access it whenever you would like. And you can also share it with people who you feel might be interested. And I encourage you have my email there. I encourage you, if you have a question, you can contact me individually. Here actually is one from Maura. How much is current and new technology included in the coursework? And this is from Mara. So Mara, just as a clarification, I'm assuming, do you mean technology in the field of interpretation? And we can talk a little bit about that, yes. So Mara is interested in how much we'll talk about current and new technology in the field, how much that will be included in the coursework. So I'm gonna let Dave start on that, and then perhaps Kristen can jump in at some point.
Yeah, great question. And I think that it's going to apply mostly to course 3. Once we head to course 3 and we start talking more about how you design displays and publications, but not just displays, but we're going to be touching on the idea of developing displays and components of larger exhibits. So that's going to be a springboard of sorts for a discussion of the different technologies that are currently in place in museums and other leisure settings. You won't necessarily get an opportunity to learn about some of these new skills and crafts during the first course where we lay down the theoretical foundation. But once we start working on developing some of these products, thematic oral presentation, and displays, we're going to learn more about some of the tools that are currently being used in interpretation. For instance, the new, not so much new, it's a revival of sorts, use of radio communication for guided tours along wildfire sites, for instance. And I know that the Oregon Department of Forestry has some current sites that offer interpretation that you can simply tune into as you're driving along the Department of Forestry roads and visiting some of those sites. There's also the idea of integration of podcasts into some interactive displays at museums, and we can touch on that a bit as well. So things are always new and changing, but one of the things that ties everything together is that they will tie back to some of these important principles that we'll introduce via courses 1 and 2. So yeah, we're going to learn more about some of the cutting edge technology that's currently in place once we get to course 3.
And I'm going to jump in. This is Bridget, and I also wanted to say, Mara, and everyone else, that one of the reasons we're so excited about the advisory board for this certificate is that they really, truly represent so many different aspects of this field. And so those advisory board members will be helping to review and, introduce concepts and content, as Dave is mentioning in course 3, particularly those who have, a lot of interest in engaging research. And one of our partners, people we've been working with, are at the Hatfield Marine Science Center out in Newport, Oregon, and they use some really interesting technology to track what visitors are learning and how and why. And they use, cameras, touch technology. So we'll also be discussing that. So great question. Paula asks, will syllabi be available? Yes, Paula, that's a great question. I think you can expect the syllabus, particularly for courses 1 and 2, in the next few weeks, and that will be on our website, but I'll also send out an email alert with that in there. What I will do for all of you today is I'll send an outline of the courses as we have them now. So after our webinar today, I'll make sure to get that out. But the detailed syllabus, look for it in a few weeks. Mark has a question about the format of the online classes. So Mark's question is about being out of contact for a few weeks in the beginning of the program. And Mark, if you have specific questions, you can certainly email me afterwards or give me a call, and we can talk about that. I will say that the course is a fully online course, so there is flexibility, and this, we encourage students to complete it within a given time. But I'm assuming, and now I don't want to speak for Dave and Kristen, that we can discuss on an individual level. So the difference between this and a traditional face-to-face course, and what's nice is that it does give you that flexibility. It is a virtual environment, so you can access it from other places. If, like Mark, you'll be out and about and hopefully doing something fun, it sounds like it, for 3 weeks or around that time frame, contact us and we can talk about that. We can probably work something out.
And I can add on to that a little bit too. You can consider these courses as being presentations that you can access at one point in time, close it out, and then come back to it. So you don't necessarily need to take in an entire presentation at once per se. You can take in a little bit, come back to it. One of the things you'll find out is as you proceed from one course to the next, we're going to have some assessments built in. And to give you, for instance, at the very end of course 1, we're going to have an assessment that you'll need to complete, interactive questions. And course 2 will only be available once you've passed that assessment within course 1. But they will be built in to make it relatively easy for somebody who has taken the course, viewed the course, to be able to complete that assessment. So that kind of drives home, goes back to your question. You should be able to be out of touch for a while and then re-access the first course and complete it.
This is Kristen. I do want to make an important point. Though most of the interaction will be asynchronous, and you'll be able to do it on your own time, and why this is such a great program in itself. you are part of a shared learning community, and that's one of the things that we're trying to represent as well. And so sharing some thoughts and ideas and beliefs and experiences with your peers that are joining you during the certificate program is going to be part of it. So do expect to have some interaction in a timely fashion, so to speak, so that there will be some work with your peers, and that's going to be important to kind of take into consideration as well. It's not timed on such and such date you need to get on the phone or on the web at 2 p.m., but there will be some interaction there because we will have a dynamic group of people participating.
Yeah, that's a good point. It looks like our next question is from Lori, and she's wondering, it's a good question, how the NAI certification compares to our certificate. And she's noticing that courses 1 and 2 share similar curriculum to the Certified Interpretive Guide. And so just a quick overview, and then I'll jump into your question a little bit, and Dave and maybe Kristen can too. The NAI has actually many different types of certifications, all different kinds, actually. The one that we're offering as an elective, the Certified Interpretive Guide, it does share some overlap with courses 1 and 2 because, as Dave mentioned, they're both calling on this foundation of the field and the foundations of interpretation. Our course is more in depth and it gives more time to a lot of the concepts, and there's also the outputs are different. So the assignments, what's expected. You'll notice that in course 2, one of the outputs that Dave talked about, or one of the assignments, is a thematic oral presentation. And we definitely see that as a nice practice for if you do take the Certified Interpretive Guide training and you will have to do a thematic oral presentation there. But in course 1, for example, Dave will introduce the concept of a plan, of a site plan, and that will be worked on. The students will work on that throughout the program, and that isn't something that the NAI CIG does. There is a separate certification for planning, but it's a completely different program. So what we're trying to do is take a lot of the different aspects of this field and of mastery of communication and work them into one certificate. And so for me, that's one of the biggest differences, that the NAI certificate kind of takes a piece at a time and does it well, but we're just trying to do it a little bit more in depth and give people, as Kristen is saying, this nice community of practice, this environment in which to do it. And I'm not sure if either Dave or Kristen want to jump in on that.
Oh, sure. I just want to kind of back up what Bridget was saying. If you do decide to go for the NAI certification, you're going to approach it or enter it with a definite advantage in that we are exploring some of the concepts that NAI would, but to a greater depth. And you're going to come in potentially with this thematic oral presentation in place. And the NAI certification is going to give you a chance to fine-tune that and make it a fine-tuned tool that you can then use, just to throw it out there, as a feather in your cap for your resume building and also for other projects that you might go on to after the certificate has ended. So it's a wonderful opportunity to cover 2 bases within a larger certificate. Our larger program and its courses, as well as the NAI certificate. The joining of these 2 entities is pretty unique, and it's something that I really encourage folks to take advantage of. We have a really unique opportunity for us and for you, and a great set of instructors that will be available for that NAI certificate as well.
Yeah, and again, Lori and anyone else, if you have other, maybe really sort of specific questions about differences in program, you should give me a call or email, and I would love to talk more about that. These are great questions. Does anyone else have any other questions? And again, this isn't, please follow up afterwards if you do. There is information on the courses on our website, as well as Dave and Kristen's bio, a list of our advisory board members, and as Paula asked, we'll have syllabi up there within the next few weeks. But we would love to hear from you, and one of my goals is to give you as much information as you need to make a good decision about the certificate. So please feel free to follow up. And I think we're going to close out the webinar, and thank you all for attending so much. And again, if you have any other questions, you can contact me via email or phone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.